Your child was trespassing. That's what happens.
Your husband just watched you push her in.
The splash came first. Then my daughter's screams. I was inside making Lily's breakfast when I heard it. The sound of a small body hitting water, followed by terrified crying I'd recognize anywhere. I ran to the backyard to find my 2-year-old in the decorative pond, water up to her chest, lips already turning blue in the 38-degree spring-fed water. Victoria Brennan, our HOA president, stood 3 feet away with her tape measure and camera, photographing Lily's plastic slide. "The structure extends 4 inches over the property line," she said calmly, as if my daughter wasn't screaming and shivering in freezing water. "That's unauthorized placement on HOA common property." I pulled Lily from the pond. Her body was already shaking violently, skin ice cold, the unmistakable signs of hypothermia setting in. I'm a pediatric emergency medicine physician. I treat cold water immersion cases at the Children's Hospital. I knew exactly how dangerous this was. If you're a parent watching this, you know what I felt in that moment. "What happened?" I demanded, wrapping Lily in my shirt, her teeth chattering, her small body trembling against mine. "Your child was trespassing on HOA property," the board president replied, still taking photos. I was removing the violation when she fell. But I saw Victoria's husband, Gregory, standing at their kitchen window across the way, his face stricken with horror. And I saw something else in Lily's eyes beyond the cold and terror of the woman standing there with her clipboard. If you've ever felt that protective rage when someone hurts your child and walks away, stay with me and hit subscribe now. I'm Daniel Chen, pediatric trauma specialist, expert witness in child endangerment cases. I've testified in court about hypothermia injuries, documented dozens of cold water immersion cases, trained emergency responders on pediatric temperature regulation. And I just watched an HOA official stand calmly photographing violations while my daughter suffered potentially life-threatening hypothermia. I carried Lily inside, already running through protocols. Core temperature assessment. Her skin was ice cold, shivering severe. At 38 degrees, water pulls heat from a toddler's body 25 times faster than air. Every second counts between moderate hypothermia and organ failure. I called 911, began active warming, removed wet clothes, wrapped her in blankets, held her against my body heat. My medical training fought with my father's panic as I monitored her responses, looking for signs of moderate versus severe hypothermia. Lily wouldn't stop crying, not just from cold, from fear. She kept saying "bad lady" and pushed me between sobs. I'd lost my wife in a car accident 14 months ago, moved to Riverside Glen because it was marketed as safe, family-friendly, perfect for a single father raising a toddler alone. I'd promised my wife before she died that I'd keep Lily safe, give her stability, create a home where she could heal from losing her mother. Now, my daughter was hypothermic, traumatized, because an HOA president cared more about 4 inches of slide placement than a child's safety. The ambulance arrived. EMTs took Lily's temperature, 93.2 degrees Fahrenheit, moderate hypothermia. Hospital transport necessary. As they loaded her into the ambulance, I saw Victoria still in my yard, still photographing, already writing the violation notice. Gregory had disappeared from his window. Lily's lips were blue. Her body still shook. She reached for me with small, cold hands, crying, "Daddy, don't let the bad lady get me." I climbed into the ambulance with my daughter, my mind already working through what I'd witnessed with clinical precision. The pond had no safety fence despite HOA regulations. Victoria's aggressive removal of the slide. Lily's terror suggesting this wasn't a simple fall. Gregory's horrified expression suggesting he'd seen something different than his wife's story. And most importantly, I was a pediatric physician who specialized in documenting injuries for court cases. I knew exactly how to build medical evidence that couldn't be dismissed or explained away. Victoria Brennan had just assaulted my daughter in front of someone who knew how to prove it. She just didn't know that yet. The pediatric ICU felt different when my own daughter was the patient. I'd walked these halls for 12 years, treated hundreds of hypothermia cases, but watching Lily hooked up to warming equipment and cardiac monitors shattered my professional distance completely. Her core temperature had dropped to 93 degrees Fahrenheit, moderate hypothermia. The attending physician, my colleague Dr. Sarah Kim, monitored Lily's vitals while explaining rewarming protocols I already knew by heart. "Dan, she's stable, but another minute in that water," Sarah didn't finish. She didn't have to. I documented everything with the same clinical precision I used for other patients. Water temperature, 38 degrees there. Duration of exposure, approximately 45 seconds based on my response time. Core temperature on arrival, 93.2 degrees. Symptoms, severe shivering, confusion, lethargy, cyanosis of lips and extremities. Photographic evidence of bruising on Lily's back, small marks consistent with being shoved. The police arrived to take statements. Officer Martinez listened as I explained what I'd found. Lily in the pond. The HOA president photographing violations instead of helping. My daughter's terror of the bad lady. Did you witness the actual incident, Dr. Chen? No. I heard the splash and came out to find her already in the water. And Ms. Brennan's statement is that she was removing an unauthorized structure when the child fell during a tantrum. He flipped through his notes. Her husband corroborates her account. My chest tightened. Gregory had lied to protect his wife. My daughter is 2 years old. She doesn't have tantrums that involve throwing herself into freezing ponds. Without witnesses contradicting Ms. Brennan's version, this appears to be an accident during a property dispute. Officer Martinez closed his notebook. I'm sorry about your daughter, but there's no evidence of criminal conduct here. After he left, Sarah sat beside me while Lily slept under warming blankets. This wasn't an accident, was it? No, but I can't prove it without witnesses. Then document everything else. She pulled up Lily's chart. You're an expert witness in pediatric trauma cases. You know what kind of evidence courts need. Build it. Over the next 2 hours, parents from Riverside Glen quietly appeared. They'd heard about Lily, came to check on her, and they brought stories. Mrs. Patterson's 6-year-old had fallen into that same pond 8 months ago. Hypothermia, overnight observation, terrified of water ever since. Victoria blocked our petition to fence it, said it would ruin the aesthetic. Tom Rodriguez described the board president grabbing his son's arm during a compliance inspection, leaving bruises. She said he was running too close to her flower beds. He was 4 years old. Jennifer Hayes whispered about Victoria destroying her daughter's chalk drawings on the sidewalk, physically pushing the child aside when she protested. My daughter cried for hours, but we were too afraid to complain. 6 families, 6 children who'd fallen into the unfenced pond over 3 years, multiple incidents of the HOA president physically grabbing, pushing, or intimidating children during enforcement actions, a pattern of violence enabled by fear. Why didn't anyone report this? I asked. Tom's laugh was bitter. We tried. Victoria controls the board. Anyone who challenges her gets buried in violations and fines until they either shut up or move away. 3 families have left specifically to escape her. Sarah, listening to all of this, pulled me aside. Dan, you're not just a father seeking justice. You're a pediatric trauma specialist with expert credentials. These families need someone who can't be intimidated into silence. I looked at Lily through the observation window. My 2-year-old daughter connected to monitors because an HOA official cared more about property lines than child safety. I'd spent 12 years documenting pediatric injuries, building cases, testifying against people who harmed children. Now my own daughter was the victim, and the woman who hurt her had just made a critical mistake. She'd assaulted the child of someone who knew exactly how to prove it, document it, and make sure she never harmed another child again. Victoria Brennan thought her HOA position and her husband's silence protected her. She was wrong. Gregory Brennan appeared at my door 3 evenings after Lily came home from the hospital. The man standing on my porch looked 10 years older than the HOA treasurer I'd seen at community meetings. Shoulders hunched, hands trembling, eyes carrying the weight of something unbearable. Dr. Chen, I need to talk to you. His voice cracked. About what really happened. I let him inside, watching his hands shake as he sat on my couch. He couldn't meet my eyes, kept staring at the floor, his wedding ring catching the light. I saw everything, he said finally, barely audible. From our kitchen window, the whole thing. My chest tightened. What did you see? Gregory's hands clenched into fists. Victoria didn't just remove the slide. She was furious that your daughter was sitting on it. She grabbed it and yanked it violently. When Lily lost her balance, he stopped, closed his eyes. Victoria shoved her, deliberately, pushed your daughter toward the pond with both hands. The room felt too small suddenly. You told police it was an accident. I know. Tears welled in his eyes. I've been lying for her for 4 years, covering up her violence, making excuses, telling myself she was just passionate about maintaining standards. His voice broke completely. But she pushed a 2-year-old into freezing water, and I stood there and lied to protect her. He pulled out a worn notebook from his jacket, set it on the coffee table between us like evidence in a trial. I've been documenting everything, every incident, every time she's grabbed a child, destroyed someone's property, physically intimidated residents during inspections. I opened the notebook, page after page of meticulous entries, dates, times, detailed descriptions. March 2021. Victoria grabbed teenage boy's arm during skateboard violation, left visible bruises, family too afraid to file complaint. July 2021. Victoria destroyed Rodriguez family's garden during inspection, pushed their 4-year-old son when he tried to stop her. November 2022. Victoria blocked petition to fence decorative pond after third child fell in, stated aesthetic concerns outweigh minimal risk. Entry after entry. A systematic record of violence and intimidation documented by someone too afraid to act on what he knew was wrong. Why are you coming forward now? I asked, trying to keep anger from my voice. Gregory's hands shook harder. He pulled out his phone, showed me photos of his grandchildren, 2 little girls, maybe 3 and 5 years old. They visit every month, play in our yard near that pond. His voice dropped to a whisper. I watched your daughter turn blue from hypothermia. I saw her terror, and I realized, what if it had been my granddaughter's? What if I keep staying silent, and next time a child doesn't survive? He looked up at me finally, tears streaming down his face. I've been married to Victoria for 18 years. I've told myself she was just strict, just maintaining standards, just passionate about community values. But you're a doctor who treats injured children. You know what this is. It's assault. It's child endangerment. And I've been complicit by staying silent. Will you testify? I asked. Tell police what you really saw? Gregory's jaw clenched. His whole body trembled with the weight of choosing between loyalty and conscience. I don't know if I can testify against my own wife. If I do this, it destroys everything. My marriage. My position. She'll never forgive me. Your wife pushed my 2-year-old daughter into freezing water and then blamed me for it. I said quietly, how many more children does she get to hurt before forgiveness stops mattering? He sat there for a long moment, the notebook between us, his wedding ring visible on his shaking hand. I have emails too, he finally said. Victoria's messages to other board members about problem families and dealing with violations. Financial records showing she's blocked every safety improvement for that pond. Meeting minutes I kept where she laughed about parents being overprotective. He met my eyes. I have everything you'd need to prove she's been doing this for years. But I'm terrified of what happens when I betray her. I thought about Lily's blue lips, her terror, her small voice saying, don't let the bad lady get me. Then be more terrified of what happens to the next child if you don't. The certified letter arrived 5 days after Lily's hospital discharge. HOA letterhead, Victoria Brennan's signature as board president. Notice of violations and fines. Unauthorized structure placement on HOA common property, $2,000. Child trespassing on HOA property, $1,000. Creating dangerous situation requiring emergency response, $2,000. Total amount due, $5,000 within 14 days or late fees accrue at $100 per day. But the violations were only the beginning. Attached was a formal HOA complaint filed against me, claiming my negligent supervision and improper structure placement had caused Lily's injuries. The board president described me as an irresponsible parent whose failure to monitor his child near dangerous water features had necessitated emergency services. She was rewriting history, making herself the enforcer of safety while painting me as the negligent father who'd nearly killed his own daughter. Sarah read the letter over my shoulder, her medical director's calm cracking into fury. She's blaming you for the hypothermia? When she's the one who pushed Lily into that water, and threatening to report me to Child Protective Services. I showed her the final paragraph. Claims ongoing concerns about my ability to provide adequate supervision. The implications were devastating. I was a pediatric physician. My medical license required maintaining fitness for practice. A CPS investigation for child endangerment could destroy my career, not just my reputation as a father. That afternoon, the HOA board voted 4-1 to support Victoria's complaint. Only Gregory abstained, though he remained silent about why. The woman who'd assaulted my daughter now had institutional backing to claim I was the danger. 2 days later, Victoria escalated from paperwork to presence. I was at the hospital when my babysitter called, voice shaking. "Dr. Chen, the HOA president is here. She's pounding on the door, demanding to come inside for an emergency inspection. She says you have more violations that need immediate documentation." I left mid-shift, drove home to find the board president in my backyard, measuring my fence from the HOA common area, her camera documenting every angle of my property. "Your fence exceeds permitted height by 2 inches, she announced when she saw me. "That's another $1,000 violation," she pointed to Lily's sandbox. "And that structure requires approval before placement. My daughter just got out of the hospital with hypothermia. Leave us alone. Your daughter trespassed on HOA property because you failed to supervise her adequately." The woman's voice was cold, clinical. "I'm ensuring no additional violations create further safety concerns." I saw Lily watching from her bedroom window upstairs, her small face pale with fear. She'd been having nightmares since the incident, waking up crying about the bad lady and freezing water. Our therapist said she was developing PTSD from the assault. Now Victoria was in our backyard, deliberately traumatizing my daughter to drive us out. "You need to leave my property now," I said, keeping my voice controlled despite the rage building in my chest. "I'm on HOA common property conducting necessary inspections." She took more photos, her movements calculated to be visible from Lily's window. "Though I recommend you consider relocating. Your presence here has created ongoing safety concerns." That evening, another letter arrived. This one wasn't on HOA letterhead. It was from Victoria personally. "Dear Dr. Chen, I regret the unfortunate incident involving your daughter. However, continued harassment and false accusations against me will result in legal action. I've consulted with the HOA's attorney regarding your defamatory statements to neighbors and potential restraining order. For your daughter's well-being, I suggest you focus on proper supervision rather than blame shifting. Regards, Victoria Brennan, HOA Board President." Lily came downstairs as I read it, clutching her stuffed rabbit, her eyes red from crying. "Daddy, is the bad lady going to push me again?" I held my daughter while she trembled, feeling her fear, and made my decision. Victoria thought her HOA position and her ability to rewrite events protected her. She'd blocked police investigation, silenced her husband, and was now systematically trying to destroy my reputation to avoid accountability. But she'd assaulted a child in front of a pediatric trauma physician who knew exactly how to document assault, build medical evidence, and make sure abusers faced consequences. She was about to learn that some evidence can't be intimidated into silence. I spent the next week doing what I'd been trained to do for 12 years, building a medical case that would hold up under the harshest scrutiny. My home office transformed into an evidence room. On one monitor, Lily's complete medical records from her hospitalization. Core temperature readings, 93.2 degrees on arrival, 93.0 degrees at lowest point. Classification, moderate hypothermia. Risk assessment, potential for cardiac arrhythmia, organ damage, death if exposure had continued. I documented her injuries with clinical precision. Photographic evidence of bruising on her back. 2 distinct marks consistent with hand placement during a shove. Measurements showing bruise size and positioning. Medical analysis of force required to create such injuries on a 27-pound toddler. Then I researched cold water immersion dangers, compiling studies I'd used in previous court testimony. At 38 degrees F, children lose core temperature at catastrophic rates, roughly 1 degree every 3 to 5 minutes. Lily had been in that water approximately 45 seconds. Another minute, and we'd be discussing permanent neurological damage. 2 minutes, and I might have pulled out my daughter's body instead of her living, terrified self. I created a comprehensive medical report, the kind I'd submitted dozens of times as expert witness. Every page documented with citations, temperature curves, risk stratifications, evidence that what happened wasn't a minor accident, but a life-threatening assault. But the pond itself became my most powerful evidence. I pulled Riverside Glen's HOA regulations, publicly available documents. Section 7.3. All decorative water features exceeding 12 inches in depth must be equipped with safety barriers, including, but not limited to, fencing, netting, or approved protective structures. The pond was 18 inches deep. It had no barriers. It had been in violation of the HOA's own safety code for 3 years. I accessed HOA meeting minutes through the county records office. Public documents, all properly filed. What I found was damning. April 2021. Parents petition for pond safety fence after first child falls in. Victoria's response in official minutes. Aesthetic concerns and property values outweigh minimal risk. Motion denied 4-1. September 2021. Second child falls in. Treated for hypothermia. Parents request emergency fence installation. Victoria blocks it again. Excessive reaction to isolated incident. Families should supervise children appropriately. March 2022. Third child falls in. Another petition. Another denial by the board president. November 2022. Fourth child, then fifth, then sixth. 6 documented cases of children falling into that unfenced pond over 3 years. 6 hypothermia cases. 6 families too terrified of HOA retaliation to push for safety measures. And now, Lily was the 7th. I compiled the medical records from the other cases, obtained through hospital database searches I had legal access to as attending physician. Pattern of injuries. Pattern of ages. All children under age 7. Pattern of core temperatures, ranging from 94 degrees to 91 degrees, every single one qualifying as moderate to severe hypothermia. Victoria had been warned 6 times that her decorative pond was sending children to the emergency room. She'd blocked every safety improvement, called parents overprotective, prioritized aesthetics over child safety. Then she'd shoved my daughter into that same pond and tried to blame me for negligence. I sat back, reviewing the evidence spread across my screens. Medical documentation of assault, proof of HOA safety code violations, pattern of institutional child endangerment. Victoria's own words in official minutes, showing she'd been told repeatedly about the danger and refused to act. This wasn't just about Lily anymore. It was about 7 children who'd suffered hypothermia because the HOA president cared more about property values than protecting kids. Sarah called as I was organizing the final documentation. Dan, I've been thinking about this case. You have medical expertise, expert witness credentials, and personal stake. This needs to be public. Public? You're a respected physician. Your daughter was assaulted and nearly killed. You have documented evidence that this woman has been endangering children for years. She paused. This story needs to reach people who can force accountability, not just police or HOA boards, everyone. I looked at the evidence. Thought about the 6 other families living with their children's trauma. Thought about Lily's nightmares and the bruises on her back. Victoria had tried to silence this with paperwork and intimidation. Maybe it was time to make sure silence was impossible. Dr. Sarah Kim called me into her office the morning after I'd finished compiling the medical documentation. She closed the door, pulled up a chair across from me instead of sitting behind her desk, the gesture of a friend, not just a supervisor. Dan, I've been reviewing the cases we've treated from Riverside Glen over the past 3 years, she said. We've had 8 pediatric hypothermia admissions from that community, 7 from the same decorative pond, 1 from a different water feature. She paused. That's statistically impossible, unless there's a systematic safety failure. Victoria's blocked every attempt to fence it. I know. I pulled the HOA meeting minutes you flagged. Sarah's jaw tightened. She's been told repeatedly that children were being injured. She called parents overprotective and refused safety measures. Then she assaulted your daughter at that same pond and tried to blame you for negligence. She leaned forward. You're not just a grieving father, Dan. You're a pediatric trauma specialist with expert witness credentials. You've testified in child endangerment cases. You know how to document assault, and you have evidence that can't be dismissed. I've built the medical case, but police already declined to pursue charges. Because they're treating this as a local HOA dispute. Sarah pulled out her phone, showed me a news article. Remember Dr. Patricia Morrison? Testified in that daycare abuse case last year? Her documentation went viral, sparked national conversation about institutional child safety. She reached millions of people, forced policy changes. You're saying I should make this public. I'm saying you have a daughter who was assaulted and nearly killed. You have medical evidence proving it. You have proof that the woman who hurt her has been endangering children for years. Sarah's voice intensified. And you have the professional platform to ensure she never harms another child. This isn't just about Lily. It's about the next 7-year-old who falls into that unfenced pond because someone stayed silent. That afternoon, I took Lily to her therapy appointment. Dr. Jennifer Martinez specialized in childhood trauma. She'd been working with Lily since my wife died, helping my daughter process grief and loss. Now we were processing assault and terror. I watched through the observation window as Lily played with dolls in the therapy room. She picked up a small figure, made it walk toward a blue mat representing water. "The bad lady pushed the baby," Lily said in her small voice, shoving the doll toward the mat. "Baby went in the cold water and couldn't breathe. Baby was scared." Dr. Martinez gently asked, "What happened next?" "Daddy saved baby, but bad lady didn't help. She just took pictures." Lily's voice got smaller. "Bad lady is still outside. She's going to push baby again." My chest constricted watching my 2-year-old daughter act out her trauma, her fear that the woman who hurt her was still a threat. After the session, Dr. Martinez handed me her clinical report. "Daniel, Lily is exhibiting severe trauma responses, PTSD symptoms, specific terror of Victoria Brennan, regression in development. She's afraid to go outside, afraid to be near water, constantly scanning for threats." She paused. "This isn't just about the hypothermia. It's about ongoing fear that her abuser has access to her. Victoria patrols our neighborhood. Lily sees her from the window, which re-traumatizes her every time." Dr. Martinez met my eyes. "You're a physician. You understand how trauma works. Lily won't heal until she feels safe, and she won't feel safe until the person who hurt her faces real consequences." That night, after Lily finally fell asleep clutching her stuffed rabbit, I sat with the evidence spread across my desk. Medical documentation, hypothermia risk analysis, pattern of endangered children, HOA safety violations, therapy reports showing my daughter's ongoing trauma. Victoria thought her HOA position and her ability to rewrite events would protect her. She'd silenced police, controlled the board, and tried to destroy my reputation. But she'd assaulted the child of someone who knew how to build evidence cases that courts and the public couldn't ignore. I opened my laptop and began drafting the post that would change everything. If Sarah was right, if Dr. Morrison's case had shown how medical expertise combined with personal stake could force institutional accountability, then maybe it was time to stop fighting this quietly. Maybe it was time to make sure everyone knew what Victoria Brennan had done and what she'd been allowed to get away with for far too long. Gregory returned 4 days later, but this time he brought his laptop, external hard drive, and 4 years of documentation he'd been hiding. His face looked different, resolved, almost peaceful, like someone who'd finally made an impossible decision. "I'm done protecting her," he said, voice steady as he set everything on my dining room table. "I watched your daughter's therapy video, the one you mentioned about Lily acting out the assault. I can't be the person who stays silent while children are traumatized." He opened his laptop, pulled up files organized by date. I have everything. Emails showing Victoria's hatred of children in this neighborhood, meeting minutes where she mocked parents as overprotective, texts with other board members coordinating retaliation against families who complained about her violence. The first email made my blood run cold. Victoria to another board member. "These entitled parents think their brats running wild is acceptable. Time to remind them who controls property values here." Another, after the 3rd child fell in the pond. "Install a fence? These people need to learn to supervise their children instead of expecting the HOA to child-proof everything." Gregory scrolled through dozens more, a systematic record of contempt for the children living in Riverside Glen. "But this is what you really need," he said quietly, pulling up a document. My sworn statement as eyewitness. I watched Victoria deliberately shove Lily into that pond. This wasn't an accident. She was furious about the slide placement, yanked it violently, and when your daughter lost balance, she pushed her, with both hands, toward the water. He showed me his personal journal, entries documenting 4 years of his wife's escalating violence. Destroyed gardens, grabbed children's arms, pushed residents during confrontations, smashed decorations she deemed violations. March 2020, Victoria ripped out Rodriguez family's garden during inspection. Pushed their 4-year-old son when he tried to stop her. Child cried for hours. I said nothing. July 2021. Victoria grabbed teenage boy's arm hard enough to leave bruises during skateboard violation. Parents too afraid to report. I covered for her. November 2022, Victoria blocked pond fence installation after fifth child fell in. I was treasurer, could have insisted on safety measures. I voted with her instead. Entry after entry. His complicity laid bare in his own handwriting. Why now? I asked. What changed? Gregory pulled out his phone, showed me photos of his two granddaughters playing in his yard. They're 3 and 5. They visit every month. They play near that pond. His voice cracked. I watched your daughter turn blue from hypothermia. I saw her terror, and I realized, if I keep protecting Victoria, keep staying silent, what happens when it's my granddaughters who fall in? When it's my granddaughters she pushes? He met my eyes finally, tears streaming down his face. I've been married to her for 18 years. I've told myself she was just maintaining standards, just passionate about property values. But you're a doctor who treats injured children. You know what she is. She's violent. She's dangerous. And I've been enabling her by lying for her. Will you testify publicly? On camera if needed? Yes. His voice was firm now, decision made. When you expose this, and I know you will, I want to be part of it. I want parents to know that someone close to her saw the truth and chose to tell it. He paused. I'm also filing for divorce. I can't stay married to someone who assaults toddlers and then blames their parents. He handed me the external hard drive. 4 years of financial records, too. Victoria's been using HOA funds for personal expenses, blocked $8,000 pond fence while spending $40,000 on aesthetic improvements that benefited her property values. I looked at the evidence, hundreds of documents, emails, meeting minutes, Gregory's eyewitness testimony as Victoria's own husband. When this goes public, I said carefully, it'll destroy more than just Victoria, your marriage, your position. People will ask why you stayed silent so long. I know. Gregory's jaw set. But I'd rather be the husband who finally found his conscience than the man who let another child suffer because I was too afraid to speak up. If you've ever wondered what makes someone testify against their own spouse, this is it. The moment when staying silent becomes more unbearable than the cost of speaking truth. I transformed my medical expertise into a weapon of public accountability. As a pediatric trauma specialist who testified as expert witness in child endangerment cases, I knew exactly how to present evidence that would be impossible to dismiss or ignore. The core document came first, Lily's complete medical analysis. Core temperature readings showing 93-degree MERS hypothermia. Photographic evidence of bruising consistent with being shoved. Risk assessment explaining how another 60 seconds in 38-degree water could have caused permanent neurological damage or death. Clinical terminology backed by 12 years of treating similar cases. But I framed it personally, not just patient female age 2, but my daughter Lily, who lost her mother 14 months ago and was finally learning to feel safe again. Medical expertise plus father's grief. Professional credibility plus raw emotion. I compiled video footage of the unfenced pond, measurements showing 18 inches depth, close-ups of the spring-fed water I could document was 38 degrees even in March. Overlay graphics showing HOA Safety Code Section 7.3 requiring barriers for water features over 12 inches deep. Then, the pattern evidence. Hospital records from 7 children treated for hypothermia after falling into that same pond over 3 years. HOA meeting minutes where Victoria blocked safety measures after each incident. Her own words, aesthetic concerns outweigh minimal risk, and parents should supervise appropriately. 7 children, 7 hypothermia cases. Victoria warned every single time, refused to act every single time. Gregory's sworn statement became the narrative hook. I'm Victoria Brennan's husband. I witnessed her deliberately push a 2-year-old into freezing water. I lied to police to protect her. I've been complicit in covering up her violence for 4 years. I can't stay silent anymore. Husband testifying against wife. That was the story people would share. I created a multi-platform strategy, drawing on what I'd learned from Dr. Morrison's viral campaign. Primary post for Facebook and Instagram showing Lily's medical documentation. Face obscured for privacy, but temperature readings and bruising photos visible. Caption: I'm a pediatric ER physician. This is my daughter's medical record after our HOA president pushed her into a freezing pond. Core temp, 93 degree F. Diagnosis, moderate hypothermia. Her crime? Sitting on a slide that extended 4 inches over a property line. Professional photo of me in hospital scrubs for credibility. Then a second photo, me holding Lily after the incident, her wrapped in blankets, my face showing raw father's terror. The juxtaposition was deliberate. Doctor plus dad, expert plus victim. I prepared video content, clinical explanation of hypothermia dangers delivered in my physician's voice, then breaking into father's emotion as I described finding Lily blue-lipped and screaming. Press kit for media outlets included everything: medical expert analysis, eyewitness testimony from Victoria's own husband, pattern of 7 endangered children, HOA safety code violations, financial records showing the board president spent $40,000 on aesthetics while blocking an $8,000 safety fence. I drafted posts for medical professional networks, parenting forums, child safety organizations. Each version tailored to its audience but containing the same core message. HOA, president assaults toddler, nearly causes death, covers it up, gets caught by pediatric physician father who knows exactly how to document abuse. Sarah reviewed everything before I posted. This is going to explode, Dan. Are you ready for what happens next? I thought about Lily's nightmares, the 7 other families living with their children's trauma, the unfenced pond still sending kids to emergency rooms. Victoria tried to silence this with paperwork and intimidation, blocked police investigation, controlled the HOA board, tried to destroy my reputation. I looked at the evidence spread across my desk. But she assaulted a child in front of someone who knows how to make evidence go viral, someone with medical credibility people trust, someone whose own daughter's suffering will make this impossible to ignore. I positioned my finger over the post button across 6 different platforms, all scheduled to go live simultaneously at 6 a.m. tomorrow. I'm ready, I said. Let's make sure Victoria Brennan becomes famous for exactly what she is. The woman who pushed my daughter had weaponized HOA authority to protect herself. I was about to weaponize medical expertise and a husband's betrayal to destroy her. The posts went live at 6 a.m. on Tuesday across Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, parenting forums, and medical professional networks. I'm a pediatric ER physician who treats hypothermia cases. This is my daughter's medical record after our HOA president pushed her into a freezing pond over 4 inches of slide placement. Core temp, 93 didegrad wife. She's 2 years old. I attached Lily's medical documentation, temperature readings, bruising photos, risk assessment. Then the kicker. Her own husband witnessed the assault and is now testifying against her. By 7 a.m., 50,000 shares. By 8 a.m., 200,000. I watched from my living room as the view count climbed, my phone exploding with notifications. The combination was devastating. Respected physician sharing professional medical evidence of his own daughter's assault, backed by the attacker's husband coming forward with testimony. The comments section erupted with rage and heartbreak. As a mother, this makes me physically sick. That temperature reading could have been a death certificate. Her own husband is testifying against her. That tells you everything. By 9 a.m., local news called. Channel 7 wanted an interview immediately. I'd prepared for this, had my talking points ready. By 10 a.m., 1 million views. National outlets followed. Good Morning America, CNN, Fox News. The story had every element that makes content unstoppable. Innocent toddler victim, medical expert father, shocking assault, husband's betrayal, HOA abuse of power. HOA president pushed 2-year-old into freezing pond. Her own husband is testifying against her. By noon, 3 million views. Gregory called, his voice shaking. Dan, I'm getting hundreds of messages, people calling me brave. Others calling me a coward for not speaking up sooner, but mostly parents thanking me for finally telling the truth. By 2 p.m., child safety organizations issued statements. The National Center for Child Safety. This case demonstrates why HOAs need accountability measures and why safety must outweigh aesthetics when children's lives are at stake. The American Academy of Pediatrics. Dr. Chen's medical documentation is clinically sound and deeply alarming. This child was minutes from permanent injury or death. By 3 p.m., 8 million views. Then the institutional dominoes started falling. Riverside Glenn's insurance carrier sent an emergency letter to the HOA board. I received a copy from a board member who'd resigned in protest. Given viral media coverage of Board President Victoria Brennan's alleged assault on a minor, we are immediately suspending liability coverage pending investigation. If Ms. Brennan is not removed from all positions within 48 hours, coverage will be terminated, leaving all homeowners personally liable for potential lawsuit damages estimated at $2 to $5 million. The board president had created a liability nightmare for every homeowner in the community. The panic spread through Riverside Glen within hours. By 4 p.m., the county district attorney's office released a statement. We are reviewing new evidence in the Chen case, including eyewitness testimony and medical documentation. Criminal charges are under consideration. By 5 p.m., 12 million views. Victoria tried damage control, posted a statement claiming misunderstanding and media persecution. It only made things worse. Comments flooded in. Your own husband says you did it deliberately. 7 children fell in that pond and you blocked every safety measure. You're blaming a pediatric ER doctor for negligence? Her statement was ratioed into oblivion within 20 minutes. By 6 p.m., Gregory appeared on the local evening news. The interview was devastating. I'm Victoria Brennan's husband of 18 years. I witnessed her deliberately push Daniel Chen's 2-year-old daughter into freezing water. I lied to police to protect her. I've covered up her violence for 4 years. His voice broke. I can't be that person anymore. Children are being hurt, and my silence enabled it. The clip went viral separately. Husband testifies against wife who pushed toddler into pond. By 8 p.m., 18 million views across all platforms. Sarah called. Dan, you did it. This isn't just viral. It's a movement. Parents are sharing their own HOA horror stories. Legislators are being tagged. This is forcing systemic conversation about accountability. I watched the view counts continue climbing, feeling something shift. Victoria had tried to make this disappear through intimidation and institutional control. Instead, I'd made sure millions of people knew exactly what she'd done, and there was no way to make that disappear. The morning shows came first. Good Morning America wanted me in studio by 6 a.m. I wore my hospital scrubs, deliberate choice to emphasize my medical credibility. The interviewer, Rebecca Martinez, started gently. Dr. Chen, you're a pediatric emergency medicine physician. Walk us through what happened to your daughter from a medical perspective. I explained hypothermia in clinical terms, core temperature drop, risk timelines, organ failure dangers. Then I showed Lily's actual temperature readings. 93-degree RF. That's moderate hypothermia. Another minute in that water, and we're discussing permanent neurological damage. 2 minutes, and I might have been pulling out my daughter's body instead of saving her life. Rebecca's face went pale. And the woman who pushed her into that water is the HOA president, who then blamed me for negligent supervision and tried to have me reported to Child Protective Services. I pulled out Victoria's violation notices on camera. She fined me $5,000 for the incident and filed formal complaints claiming I endangered my own daughter. The interview went viral before it even finished airing. By 8 a.m., 25 million total views across all content. Then Gregory's segment aired. Separate interview, different network, but coordinated timing. CNN brought him on, and the anchor didn't waste time with softballs. Mr. Brennan, you're married to Victoria Brennan, the woman accused of this assault. Why are you testifying against your own wife? Gregory's voice was steady, resolved. Because I watched her push a 2-year-old into freezing water, and I lied to police to protect her. I've been complicit in covering up her violence for 4 years. He pulled out his documentation on camera. I have emails showing her hatred of children, meeting minutes where she blocked safety measures after 7 kids fell into that same pond. Financial records showing she spent HOA money on aesthetics while refusing an $8,000 safety fence. The anchor pressed. Why stay silent so long? Because I was afraid. Because I loved her. Because I told myself she was just maintaining standards. Gregory's voice cracked. But you can't watch a toddler nearly die and keep lying. Not when you know more children are in danger. The clip titled Husband's Betrayal, I Can't Keep Lying became its own viral phenomenon. By noon, 30 million combined views. Criminal charges filed by 2 p.m. The district attorney held a press conference, rare for a local assault case, but the media attention made it unavoidable. Victoria Brennan is charged with assault on a minor, reckless endangerment, and child abuse. We have eyewitness testimony, medical documentation, and evidence of a pattern of violent behavior toward children. Local investigative reporters descended on Riverside Glen, interviewing the 6 other families whose children had fallen into the unfenced pond. Each story added to the narrative. HOA president, who prioritized aesthetics over child safety, blocked every protective measure, then assaulted a toddler when confronted about violations. The national conversation exploded. Parenting groups organized. Child safety organizations demanded HOA accountability legislation. Pediatric medical associations rallied behind me, one of their own whose daughter had been attacked. By 4 p.m., Riverside Glen's insurance carrier publicly announced coverage termination unless the board president was removed within 24 hours. The statement made regional news. Homeowners received an email from the insurance company detailing potential liability. Civil lawsuit from the Chen family estimated at $2.5 million. No coverage for intentional acts of violence. Personal liability for all 245 households. Emergency HOA meeting scheduled for tomorrow evening. But the outcome was already decided. No homeowner would accept personal financial liability to protect someone who'd assaulted a child on camera that 30 million people had seen. That evening, Gregory called. I filed for divorce today. Made it public. I want people to know this isn't just testimony. This is me choosing conscience over loyalty, children over marriage. The divorce filing became another headline. HOA president's husband files for divorce after testifying she pushed toddler. Victoria's entire life was collapsing in real time, broadcast to millions. I sat with Lily that night, watching her sleep peacefully for the first time since the assault. The woman who'd hurt her was now facing criminal charges, public shame, financial ruin, and her husband's very public betrayal. Medical evidence plus viral exposure, plus institutional pressure equals accountability that can't be intimidated or silenced. Victoria had learned that the hard way. The emergency HOA meeting was scheduled for 7 p.m., but by 6:30, the community center was packed beyond capacity. 238 of 245 families attended. Unprecedented turnout driven by viral coverage and insurance liability panic. News cameras lined the walls. This wasn't just a local meeting anymore. It was national news. Victoria arrived with her attorney, face rigid, attempting to maintain the authority that had controlled this community for 4 years. She sat in the front row, refusing to meet anyone's eyes. Gregory stood to open the meeting, his role as treasurer giving him procedural authority. His voice was calm, resolved, carrying the weight of someone who'd finally chosen the right side. We're here to address the status of Board President Victoria Brennan following criminal charges, viral media exposure, and insurance carrier demands. He paused. But before we vote, I need to say something publicly. He turned to face the packed room, his back to his wife. I'm Victoria's husband. For 18 years, I've watched her escalate from strict enforcement to physical violence. I covered for her, made excuses, told myself she was just maintaining standards. His voice strengthened. 3 days ago, I watched her deliberately push Daniel Chen's 2-year-old daughter into freezing water. I lied to police, said it was an accident, protected my wife instead of protecting a child. The room was silent. I can't undo my complicity, but I can stop being complicit now. Gregory pulled out his documentation, held it up. I have 4 years of evidence showing Victoria's pattern of violence toward children. I've provided it to police, to Dr. Chen, and I'm providing it to this community now. He laid the papers on the table. Emails showing Victoria's contempt for children. Meeting minutes where she blocked pond safety measures after 7 falls. Financial records showing she spent $40,000 on aesthetic improvements while refusing an $8,000 safety fence. My wife assaulted a toddler, nearly caused her death, and then tried to destroy her father's reputation to cover it up. I'm testifying against her in criminal court. I'm divorcing her, and I'm asking this community to remove her from every position of authority she's abused for too long. Parents began standing, one by one, sharing stories they'd been too afraid to tell. Mrs. Patterson, my 6-year-old fell in that pond. Hypothermia, overnight hospital stay. Victoria called us overprotective when we asked for a fence. Tom Rodriguez, she grabbed my son's arm hard enough to leave bruises. He was 4 years old. When I complained, she buried us in violations until we stopped. Jennifer Hayes, she destroyed my daughter's chalk art, pushed my child aside when she protested. My daughter cried for hours. We were too terrified to report it. Story after story. The pattern laid bare in front of news cameras broadcasting nationally. Then I stood, medical documentation in hand. I'm Daniel Chen, pediatric ER physician, expert witness in child endangerment cases, and father to Lily, who was pushed into freezing water by your HOA president. I held up Lily's medical records. Core temperature, 93 degrees, moderate hypothermia, life-threatening condition. Another minute in that water, and I'd be burying my daughter, not seeking justice for her. I displayed the pond safety violations. 7 children hospitalized, 7 hypothermia cases. Victoria was warned every single time and blocked every safety measure. She prioritized aesthetics over children's lives. The insurance representative stood next. Victoria Brennan must be removed from all HOA positions immediately, or this association loses all liability coverage. Potential lawsuit exposure, $2 to $5 million. Without insurance, that's personal liability for every homeowner, approximately $10,000 per household. Emergency vote called. Gregory, as treasurer, counted the hands. 237 votes for immediate removal. 1 abstention. Victoria's attorney advised her not to vote. 0 votes against. Only the woman herself would have voted to keep her own power. Victoria Brennan, the HOA president who'd controlled Riverside Glen through fear and violence for 4 years, was stripped of all authority by near-unanimous community action in front of national news cameras, with her own husband leading the charge against her. She left in silence, her attorney beside her, facing criminal charges, civil lawsuit, public infamy, and a husband who'd chosen protecting children over protecting her. The community erupted in applause, tears, relief. Outside, parents hugged. Children who'd been too afraid to play freely started running through common areas, finally understanding the bad lady was gone. Gregory stood alone, no longer married to Victoria in any way that mattered, freed from complicity by choosing conscience. And I held Lily, who'd finally stopped having nightmares, watching justice happen because one father refused to let his daughter's assault be silenced. 6 months after the viral exposure, Riverside Glen looked different, felt different. The fear that had suffocated families for 4 years had lifted, replaced by something we'd almost forgotten: children playing freely without surveillance-based parenting. Victoria Brennan was convicted of assault on a minor and reckless endangerment, 18 months probation, mandatory anger management, permanent restraining order from Riverside Glen, criminal record for child abuse, and at any future authority positions. The civil lawsuit settled for $800,000, $500,000 from Victoria's homeowner insurance, $300,000 from HOA reserves for institutional negligence. The money went to Lily's therapy fund, medical trust, and Lily's fund, a non-profit establishing child safety standards for HOAs statewide. Gregory's divorce finalized. He'd testified at Victoria's trial, his betrayal complete and public. The judge cited his testimony as crucial evidence showing deliberate assault, not accident. Afterward, he told me quietly, "I should have done this 4 years ago, before 7 children were hurt." But the real transformation was the pond. The decorative water feature that had sent 7 children to emergency rooms was filled in, the spring redirected underground. In its place, a children's splash pad with temperature-controlled water, soft surfaces, safety features that met every code and standard. Gregory funded the memorial bench beside it. May we always prioritize children's safety over aesthetics, in honor of Lily Chen and the 7 who came before. State legislation followed the viral coverage. The HOA Child Safety Act passed unanimously, requiring safety barriers for all water features, mandatory background checks for board members, reporting requirements for violence, protections for residents who complained about abuse. 43 HOAs across the state voluntarily adopted the standards before the law even took effect, terrified of becoming the next viral child endangerment case. The medical community rallied. Pediatric organizations created guidelines for documenting HOA-related child injuries. My hospital established a reporting protocol. Any repeated injuries from the same community triggered investigation and mandatory safety review. Today was Lily's 3rd birthday party. The splash pad, where the dangerous pond used to be, was filled with children playing safely. Temperature-controlled water, soft surfaces, lifeguard on duty. Everything Victoria had blocked for years because it would ruin the aesthetic. Lily ran through the water jets, laughing, fearless. Her trauma had healed gradually through therapy, through seeing her abuser face consequences, through feeling safe in her own neighborhood again. She didn't remember much of the incident anymore, just vague memories of being cold and scared. But she knew the splash pad was Lily's place, and that the bad lady was gone forever. Other parents gathered, no longer afraid to let their children play near water, no longer maintaining warning systems about HOA patrols. Tom Rodriguez's son ran past, the same child Victoria had grabbed and bruised 3 years ago. Mrs. Patterson's daughter played confidently, the hypothermia she'd suffered at age 6, now just a bad memory. Gregory approached, holding gifts for Lily. His granddaughters played beside her, safe now, in a community that finally prioritized children over property values. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for forcing me to choose, for making me see that loyalty to someone who hurts children isn't loyalty. It's complicity." "You made the right choice," I replied. Eventually, he looked at the splash pad, at the children playing where his wife had once shoved a toddler into freezing water. "But you made it immediately. The moment you decided to expose her, build the evidence, make it impossible to ignore. That took courage I didn't have for 4 years." Sarah and Dr. Martinez arrived with their families, the medical team who'd supported Lily through hospitalization and trauma. We watched children play safely in water that no longer threatened them. If you've ever felt powerless when someone hurt your child, share this story. Hit subscribe for more stories of parents who fought back and won. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from, because this fight wasn't just about one toddler or one assault. It was about refusing to let authority become a shield for violence. It was about understanding that medical expertise, professional credibility, and strategic exposure can force accountability when local systems fail. And it was about one husband finding the courage to betray his wife's violence, proving that even those closest to abusers must eventually choose between loyalty and protecting children. The decorative pond is gone. The splash pad stands in its place, symbol of what happens when silence transforms into evidence, when complicity transforms into testimony, when one father's viral campaign forces an entire system to choose child safety over aesthetic control. Victoria thought her HOA authority was untouchable. She learned that viral medical evidence plus a husband's public betrayal creates accountability that no amount of power can silence. And 7 families, now 8, can finally let their children play safely near water.